job every day is to try to kick somebody's ass. I mean, that's why we're here.
That is caught! Left center! Reds win! And this ball is launched. High and very deep to right, long gone. It's second of the night. Elly De La Cruz.
Short lead for Pena. Larkin drills it. Do you believe this? It's going to be gone! Back to back! Walk-off home runs! How about this? He's back! He's back! He's back!
And a swing and a drive! Deep left field! This one belongs to the Reds!
Swung on and hit
Deep to left field! That ball is going to be gone! Home run! And the Reds put it tied to score!
Goes to second one. Around the first. Got a double play! And the Reds sweep the Cubs. Breaking ball. Hit high. Hit deep. Way back there. And gone! Into the second deck and left. Christian Encarnacion Strand walks it off. Archer does it in his major league debut. He gets the final 3 outs, and the Reds get an extra inning win. A thriller 5-4.
Swung on, fly ball, hit the deep right field. That ball is going to be gone. A grand slam home run by Mike Cameron.
2 outs, 2 on. Reds down by 1. Larkin down the line. It's a winner. It's a winner. Here comes Tucker. Here comes Steins. Larkin's won the game. Barry Larkin gets mobbed. Look at this scene. It's synergy.
The stretch, the pause, and the pitch. And a line drive, base hit left center field. A single for Aaron Boone. And this one belongs to the Reds. The Reds have won 8 in a row.
Kobayashi with a long look, turns it loose, and
Gunn hits it to deep right. It's all over. And this one belongs to the Reds. The Reds have won their 5th game in a row. They've defeated the Cleveland Indians on an Adam Gunn 3-run home run, 4-2.
in on the corners at first and third. 2 on, nobody out. Here's Royce Ring pitching, no bunt. Ground ball
By the third baseman into left field. Dave Bruce rounds third. And this one belongs to the Reds.
That's it pretty good. Guess what? He doesn't need speed. That's gone. He's the king of the Queen City tonight.
with 1 out here in the 11th inning. You sure got to go now.
Swung on, pull down the left field line. That ball is going to get the winning run in. Here comes Dave Bruce rounding third, heading toward the plate. And this one belongs to the Reds.
Huge situation for Votto. Why you paying the big bucks to deliver the goods with 2 outs in the 9th inning? Can he do it? In the gap right center field, and Votto delivers the goods.
Hit deep center field. And Gil going back at the warning track. It's gone. Joey Votto is delivered.
What's up, everybody? Welcome on into the Chatterbox Reds pregame show for Game 2 of a 3-game set between the Reds and the Royals. I'm Sam Keithley. This is Alex Wallace. And unlike yesterday's show with Mike and Ricky, you will not see matching hats from us. So if you came for that, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to deal with us. But yeah, Alex, Reds win yesterday, 7-4. Little bit of a scare there in the end from Emilio Pagan, but other than that, pretty good offensive showing. What'd you think of last night's game?
Well, before we jump into the game, this part's unscripted, Sam. I saw those hats yesterday. So shout out to those guys with their floppy hats from last year. I almost broke out. For some old fans out there, the Reds did a giveaway for the Bronson Arroyo hat night with a Velcro piece of blonde hair on the bottom of it. I almost brought that out for tonight, but decided against it. But yeah, yesterday, what a game to get back on the right track, beat a team that you're supposed to beat. The Reds and Royals are very comparable. The offenses are both abysmal. Maybe the Reds are coming out of that. And the Reds tend to play a lot better in bigger ballparks. That's been really the talk of, X.com, the YouTubes. Nick brought it up last night on Chatterbox Reds postgame show. I'm looking for the Reds to pull off another one tonight. Austin Hayes continues to play well. And we're getting production throughout the team, including Tyler Stephenson, 3 hits yesterday and a home run. Like to see him get hot.
Yeah, that pitch he hit out of the ballpark was something I've been looking for. Just him being able to turn on that inside pitch and go deep into left field and hit a home run. Like you said, 3-hit game for him, including a home run. Great to see. He kind of, I think, like Nick always says, he's the highest upside guy that you get from a catcher. So I think they got to continue and play him every day, treat him as an everyday guy. You see Trevino in the lineup tonight as catcher with Stephenson in the DH. I think you can sprinkle that in every couple times a week, maybe, because I think you like Trevino there in the backstop. He's a great battery mate for these pitchers. You hear that all the time. But, yeah, Stephenson's kind of finally, hopefully, breaking out. But last night, great
Stevenson
game.
has done really well with his defense. He's improved the last couple years.
Yeah, he has.
2 years ago, 2023, he was just terrible. Last year and this year, so far, I believe he's done better. Obviously, he just came back from injury. But I'm really a big believer in pairing the pitcher with who they're really comfortable with. If Singer prefers Trevino, I'm willing to take that for that night. Now, granted, you can't have all four guys. And there's some numbers to back that up. Hunter Greene gets to throw to whoever he wants to throw to. And I'm less worried about losing the DH and stuff. I'm sure, obviously, it's a possibility if Trevino were to get hurt and then Stephenson moved to catcher, then you would lose the DH. I'm less concerned about that than most, you could be. Because I think eventually you're going to have to go to that. I don't think Wins is on this roster much longer, but that's a different topic for a different day.
Yeah, we'll see how all that pans out. But Nick Martinez last night, or afternoon actually, 3 runs, 3 earned runs. He went 6 scoreless, and then like we always see, that towards the end he kind of third time through he kind of struggles a little bit, but he looked really good. He was no hit there for 3 or 4 innings until Jonathan India got a little bloop. But Nick Martinez, great to see from him. He's kind of that guy who you just expect to go out there, give you 5. I know we always like to say don't let him get to that third time through, but in yesterday, it's a little bit of a different scenario where you have a bunch of run support. But I thought he looked fine. And I think getting him to continue this consistency is just going to be huge for the rotation, especially with Greene being back. Having all these guys healthy, hoping to get more healthy, but great outing from Martinez last night.
Well, we said, I think either last week or the week prior, it's gonna take Martinez a little bit. Seemed like last year he got better the warmer it got.
Yeah.
Though, for Memorial Day weekend here in Cincinnati and the surrounding areas, I know I talked to someone this morning in your neck of the woods, Sam. He said it was so chilly, and he was at the race, and it was, he was kind of cold, had a hoodie on. So
it's been freezing.
In comparison to what it normally is. So the overall, get Martinez into the rotation and, continue to pitch well. And how many guys a couple weeks ago were saying, well, Martinez, he'll be in the bullpen once Rhett Lauder gets here.
Yeah.
I don't think Rhett Lauder is going to be pitching for the Reds this year.
Another setback.
With his oblique.
Mm-hmm.
And Francona, who is very, very specific with his word choice, said significant. So I don't, good news. I think overall, I'm no doctor. Don't pretend to be one on YouTube either. It was on his non-throwing sign. But he said, I'm out, and called out the trainer right away. So it's big time to see Martinez continue to pitch. And side note, if the season goes sideways closer to the trade deadline, hate to say it, but it would be a great trade chip in Nick Martinez, similar to what he was last year, and the Reds decided to hold on to him. But I think this year they would decide to move on. But hopefully we don't get there, and hopefully this is the beginning of a 12-game win streak.
Yeah, I agree with that trade point. Like you said, hopefully we don't get there, but if we do, seems like kind of the perfect candidate to do so. But with last night's game, I think the most important part is just winning a game 1 guarantees that it doesn't guarantee a series loss, because that crazy stat with the Reds losing game ones and not being able to win the series since summer of 2023. As crazy as it sounds, just winning game one, it's kind of it can be viewed as a big thing because all you have to do is win one more to win the series instead of coming back and winning two. And we know how bad the Reds have been in rubber matches. So I think that's another reason why tonight is kind of a surprising big game, because the past couple of years, Reds have been really poor in rubber matches, and you just hope to get the opportunity to get a sweep tomorrow to avoid that.
Absolutely. And speaking of being, sweeping, I'll never forget this. I remember watching the Reds game decade plus ago. Chris Welsh said, if you win game one, you can't get swept.
Yeah.
So even outside the Reds' wild record of 38 straight series or what have you with, not winning the first game, that's really the biggest thing. You can't get swept if you win game one. And overall, we talked about it when the Reds swept the Rockies. The odds of sweeping a major league team are very high. You're not supposed to. Most people say, win the series. That's what I'm hoping for tonight. Let's get in, score a few runs early, give Singer some breathing room, and then let the bullpen take over. But, Sam, before the show, you and I were talking about the bullpen. Do you have any thoughts on that before I share mine about the bullpen?
Yeah, I think with how poor Ashcraft and Santillan looked over the weekend, I think they're still your guys. You got to roll with them. Everyone's going to have a rough outing here and there, but I think this is more of an outlier. And, I don't think Tito's going to hesitate at all to put those guys back in a high-leverage situation. Similar to Pagan, I think he's kind of forced into that closer role at this point. I don't know who else you're going to go with, but, those three guys, I think he's going to still stick with them, and for good reason. What about you?
Kind of my thought. Yeah, I mean, really, Diaz has done nothing but just walk guys in AAA.
Yeah.
So Pagan is really it. That to me, if the Reds are in a position to add at the trade deadline, I think bullpen, 2 or 3 bullpen arms might be where they go. Maybe 3 might be a little heavy, but at least 2. Pagan, I don't think is the closer. Obviously, I don't think even long term this year. I hate to say that. I really like him, but he's just not been as solid. Ashcraft, everyone was pushing. He's going to next closer. He's just not getting enough guys to strike out.
Mm-hmm.
The Chatterbox X account posted on Sunday all the little bloopers that were dropped against the Cubs that, he gave up 3 or 4 runs there in the 7th, 8th inning. I really don't care how hard they're hit.
Yeah.
He could, we need strikeouts in those high leverage situations. 7th, 8th, 9th inning, you need strikeouts. Let's get back to the days when Aroldis Chapman was giving people pizza left and right. When he walked in with 8 strikeouts on the left field bleachers and he took home the victory for the fans. That's what they need in that 7th, 8th, 9th role, excuse me. And Santillan's been a great fireman getting out of those jams. Rogers, blah. Barlow, Jabot, blah. So, I'm interested to see how long they really last on some of these guys with Lyon Richardson sitting in AAA. And he was up here. He was pitching well. So, and John Salvani, you put it in the chat. Absolutely. The Reds had a chance to get Chapman. I wish they would have brought him back, but his days in the Reds uniform are long, long gone. And Sam Moll's not pitched particularly great.
He's on a rehab
AAA
assignment. Is he?
Yep. I believe he's on a rehab assignment.
Yeah.
Either that or he was optioned back down. There's just not a ton of room. And some of these guys, my confidence level is waning. But I think it's because Francona's putting a lot of pressure on these guys to get it done if the starters weren't lasting that long. Brady Singer. What's his ERA in the month of May, Sam?
It's up there around 7.85, I think. In the month of May.
Brady Singer's been really solid early in April, May. Like you said, a very high ERA and has caused the bullpen to pitch a little more than maybe it should.
And speaking of Singer, he's part of the pitching matchup tonight, which is Singer against Daniel Lynch. It's hardly a pitching matchup because they're going with the bullpen game. Lynch hasn't gone more than 2 innings this year, and this is only I think it's his second start being a part of these bullpen games. He's usually a guy comes out of the pen, lefty, and a huge thing that I was anticipating is with the bullpen game, I was just fully expecting myself to get disappointed seeing a lefty lineup when you're going to see this guy 2 innings. But thankfully, we see a guy like Will Benson. You see Lux. So you can push that to the side a little bit. But, yeah, Singer versus Daniel Lynch. Lynch is a guy who's got 5 pitches. He kind of mixes them all pretty evenly. He's normal four-seam, change, slider, curve, all that good stuff. But, yeah, you're not going to see him long, 1 or 2 innings max, I think. Main focus here is just on the red side of things. Singer, you're going to hope to get solid 6 out of him. Like you mentioned, his ERA, it is 7.85 in the month of May. And that's honestly, it's very surprising because in April he was your steady guy in the rotation. It seemed like he would go out there every night. He gets the call, or every 5 days, and give you 6 or 7 innings with one run ball. And he just hasn't done that in May. This is going to be his last start in May, with it being the 27th. So hopefully he kind of gets through that here. But yeah, I'm looking for the good April Brady Singer against his former team too.
Absolutely. I would love to see that tonight. We tend to see players, play better against the team that they, previously played for. Where is Jonathan India playing tonight? Is he a DH again, or is he playing second?
Haven't checked yet. Let me get that pulled up.
I would love to see Singer have a 1 hit over 7 innings. I think it'd be hilarious to see India hit a home run first at bat against Singer. After the Reds score 5 or 6 runs in the first. But what an interesting trade. Shout out Charlie Goldsmith for some breakdown on how that trade happened, and really a 2+ year event. The Reds were after Singer, the Royals were after India, and they finally made the swap this past offseason. And I think it's going to work out well for both teams. India has not played well, for those who haven't really checked in. Obviously, kind of a lightning rod of a player in a Reds uniform. And Singer wasn't fantastic either, just a very solid starter. And I think that's what we're going to get here in Cincinnati as well.
India is going to be DHing tonight, just to bring that back
that's
up.
where he's been playing primarily, is DH and second base. He was playing a little third and left field earlier in the year, and it just didn't work out. Yeah,
I think it is kind of a even trade. Probably not even with how bad India's been playing, but they haven't had a leadoff hitter the past couple of years, and they're looking for the good side of India, where he's getting on base at a 360 on base plus, and the Reds can. Pitching depth, you can't have enough of it. So, like you said, Charlie G's story about this being a trade in progress, I think it kind of just makes sense for both teams. You said earlier, it'd be cool for us to get up, 10 runs and then see India hit a home run off of Singer, just kind of a storyline thing. It'd just be funny to see.
Yeah,
we want to see the Reds lose, but
it'd be funny, and
yeah.
He would probably hit a deep drive to right field.
Not left. Ballpark, yeah. But steering here towards the lineup.
Yeah.
Something that we got Elly back at short after a little bit of an injury scare, him moving to DH yesterday after rounding third in that weekend series against the Cubs. Good to see him back at short. Hayes, Stephenson, Steer behind him, all righties, which, Tito's showing he likes to guard Elly against righties, with Elly being a much more dominant hitter against lefties. But, yeah, it's just good to see him kind of back at short. Hopefully it's nothing, this injury, because I don't think anyone wants to see Garrett Hampson play much more at shortstop.
No, and my hope would be that they would bring maybe Santiago Espinal. I think you'd have to bring someone up to play short. I don't know who. I don't think they're going to pull anybody from Double-A, but let's not talk about Elly getting hurt. I think I tell you what, though, from a guy who you see a lot of the O'Neal Cruz. We talked about him last week with the Pirates. Played some shortstop, and Tatis Jr. in the same way. Elly doesn't seem to have the track record that those guys do of getting injured. Elly's he's just a strong guy. He's not, to bring a little NBA in, he's not like a Chet Holmgren of the Thunder, who is, super thin guy. He's tall and skinny. Elly he's just a strong guy, all around, stayed healthy. I've never heard of a big injury the last 3 or 4 years. And he's determined to play every game. So my guess, if I was, if Walls could talk yesterday when he got scratched to play DH, he was probably on the way to be scratched, and he said there is no way. He wants to play all 162 games. A couple other guys I want to just shout out here. Looking at the lineup, we talked about Steers looking like himself more and more. Yeah. Just an overall, to me, solid guy. Always have a soft spot for Steer. I don't really care what anyone else says. TJ Friedel has had a really good bounce back year. Quiet, but solid year overall. And Austin Hayes, what an addition. What an addition for Austin from him. And then lastly, like you mentioned earlier, and I see our friend Honest Fan in the chat, the #1 Will Benson fan. Yeah. That dude, how can you not love him? Plays with passion. And I don't want to give the wrong person credit, but I think it was the X account Reds in 4 has posted the Reds record when Will Benson's in the lineup. And it's shockingly high, like with wins. Like if he's in, the Reds win. If he's not,
like
the
that
Reds
5-game win streak they had last week. It seemed solely because of him.
Is it coincidences? Maybe not.
And he won NL Player of the Week, and then kind of a bad break, having to face 3 straight lefties after that.
Yep.
He's kind of cools down a little bit. Still hitting the ball hard. They're just not really falling, and that's I can kind of attribute that to a bad break, having to face, I think, Heaney on the Pirates, and then a couple lefties against the Cubs. So
yep,
it's just a bad break there. I think I expect a couple of these hard hit balls to drop. Just the baseball gods treating him well, because he's still been hitting it hard.
And I did see a recent MLB Network interview. He was talking about how he's dropped his hands and working with Eric Davis, and if you see the two videos next to each other, his hands are very low, like near his waist. Yep. He's changed his batting stance a little bit as well. I would love to see Benson up a little higher in the lineup. But I get it. I didn't play baseball enough to be like, I understand the pressure. So everyone's saying, hey, there's pressure in the lineup in different spots. I don't really think it matters where you hit per se, really important when it comes to like run scoring. Obviously you don't want your pitcher, batting first or second, or at least the old times, or even a catcher who is a light hitting catcher or what have you. But, overall it's not a huge deal, but I like to see him boosted just a little bit, maybe, put him where Lux is and move Lux and Trevino down. But, hopefully he can have a couple good hits tonight and lead the Reds to victory.
Yeah, for sure. And the last thing I think we need to mention about this lineup is the off day for Matt McClain.
Yep.
You're going to have Gavin Lux playing second base for 5th or 6th time this season, I believe, starting there, which is kind of his position he's played the past couple of years with the Dodgers the most. But well-needed off day for McClain.
What's your thoughts on Matt McClain overall?
I think this off day is very needed, but once he comes back, I expect him to be an everyday guy still. It's kind of like what we said with Tyler Stephenson. The production he's had the past couple years, so you know what to expect out of him. And he's got a high ceiling compared. I don't want Santiago Espinal playing every day over him. I like Espinal at third, especially with these guys. We have CES and Candelario and all those guys, Marte, all hurt. He's going to be everyday guy, but I don't want him being over Matt McClain just simply because of the ceiling. And, his rookie year, he was probably the best hitter for the Reds when he got called up. TJ Friedel was great. Elly De La Cruz was great. But, he was a mid 800 OPS guy in his rookie year. So I think he just has to continue to be an everyday player. You hope sooner or later he's going to break through and become kind of the Matt McClain we know, and maybe even better than that because he's still super young. But I think you got to continue to pencil him in there every day at second. I don't care where in the order, but just have him in the lineup every day.
I think you have to have him in the lineup every day to see what you got. Mm-hmm. That's, to me, it. I would be lying if I would say I'm not a little nervous that he's not who we thought he was.
Sure. I will say the beginning of the year, he looked great, though. And then,
I thought it was, of course, a week into the season. I was saying MVP.
Yeah. I think he had 4 home runs there.
He did.
The first couple weeks, and then goes out with the injury, and then comes back and hasn't really been the same. So there's definitely
That's another thing that worries me about him, Sam, is his slight build and how much, is he dealing with an injury right now? I guess we'll never know how it all shakes out. But, I think you're right. Give him a day or two. Let him just relax, cool off, and then go from there and see where he's at.
Yeah, you're going to need him for this Cubs series during the weekend, which our week last week and this week, they seem to be they mirror themselves in a really strange way, because last week in our Tuesday show, it was game 2 of the Pirates series coming off a win. I remember we were saying, we're not going to get greedy and ask for a sweep, but let's get one more. Let's win the series here and get momentum heading. Yeah, let's get some momentum heading into the Cubs series. And they did the complete opposite and ended up losing 2 and then kind of choking that Cubs series. So it's the same thing with the Cubs series being on the weekend. You win game 1 against the Royals. Again, winning this series, getting some momentum heading into the Cubs series is going to be huge. Division rivals, they always mean more, not just because you're rivals, but in the standings, you win and they lose. That does a huge thing for the playoff picture, especially with the Cubs being in first. I don't expect the Reds to really chase them down anytime soon, but if you're going to want to make a playoff push, you're going to have to win these kinds of series.
Well, absolutely. If the Reds this weekend, if they can, stay where we are, at least stay, within striking distance, we want to win one of the next 2, right? Win the Royals series. And then they can go into Chicago and gain at least 1 game and win the series. That'd be great. Mm-hmm. You just can't get swept this weekend. You get swept this weekend, you're 9.5 games out. And as much as I hate to say it, I really don't see how they can make up that much ground.
Yeah.
The Cubs, I want to apologize to the Cubs because they're good. And
that offense is power. It's fearful.
Well, they have 5 or 6 guys who hit 10 home runs plus this year. The Reds have 0.
Yeah.
And I don't understand, not to get a little passionate, I just don't understand how the Reds don't have 10 home runs from one player yet. I just don't. You play in Great American Ballpark. The right field deck is, a power alley. You really don't have huge power lefties. And I get it. CES is hurt. But I just do not understand how they don't have a guy who's had 10 home runs yet. They haven't had a 30+ home run guy in 4 years. Yeah.
It's very disappointing. I think if Hayes stays healthy, you'd probably see that out of him. But he hasn't had the at-bats for it. And it's just, you see guys like Espinal, and I'm a huge Espinal fan, more than a lot of people, but you're not going to get that out of him. You're not going to get the power out of him. Yeah. And then a guy like Lux, he pops out. I think everyone expected a little bit more from the power side with him, especially playing in Great American. I only think he hit 10 home runs last year total, but he was kind of hidden in that Dodgers lineup. So I think a lot of people.
Yeah, Lux doesn't have big power. I thought Lux would be able to hit some home runs out of the right field, right field, to right center field this year. Mm-hmm. Not been the case. This lineup is begging for an Adam Dunn.
Yeah,
Adam Dunn would be fantastic in this lineup. Throw him at DH, he would be hitting balls to the river. Like he did back in the early 2000s. So, Sam, anything else? I see some comments in here. We don't have much more time to go through, but I see some comments about some IL stints coming off. Fraley, Candelario, CES. I'll just go run it through real quick for Carey here. I think Fraley stays in AAA. I don't think there's any way they can squeeze him on this roster without literally being stupid and sending Benson down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they have another option either. Then CES, probably you cut wins.
Yeah, I think
and
that's.
Then, then does Candelario take Hampson's spot? I don't know.
And where's Marte fit into this too?
I'm not really counting on him until he's back.
Yeah.
But to me, we've talked about that. I think if Candelario comes in and hits home runs, then I think Marte stays in triple. I don't know. But the obliques are so touchy and tend to cause more problems. And, we said it with Louder, I know a little bit different. But, they're just, I can't count on those to come back. And they said it was like a grade 2, which is pretty significant. And Hines.
Yeah. Even with all these injuries, I think you have to throw Hines in there too, because I'm a huge fan of Hines. I think he should be up right now. Not a fan at all of that Hampson signing. So
now I will say this.
Hines in there too.
I will say this. I'm not totally upset about the Hampson signing.
Okay.
Only because I felt like they needed some infield depth. Sure. And really they really didn't have any. I mean, granted, trust me, I'd rather have Hines, but
yeah, he can't play.
The only player who can play third base, Lux, maybe. I think you got to commit to Lux at third and second.
Yeah.
As your backup if he's not playing left, and then you put Hines in. That's to me how you'd fit it. But I do love Reese Hines, and I would prefer him over Hampson, but I don't absolutely hate that.
Yeah, and I think the organization is huge on Hines' offense too, because they wouldn't play him or work him in at first in the workouts if they didn't like his offense. Because you see before the games he's getting some picks in there at first, some ground balls, so they want him in the lineup too. But
I'd be interested to see if he plays there in AAA.
Yeah,
if he picks up first base in AAA, that'd be interesting.
That'd definitely be a big development. But Alex, I know you like to end the shows with some little trivia facts. What do you got tonight?
Yep. So 2008, May 27th, 2008. I believe my dad and I actually were at this game. I'm pretty sure Jay Bruce's debut. Went 3 for 3 with a couple doubles. Jay Bruce is a guy who I wish the Reds, kept him, not kept him around a little longer. I think his tenure with the Reds was well over, and there in 2016 when they traded him for Dilson Herrera and a relief pitcher by the name of Max Wotel for the New York Mets. But a guy who bounced around, and the shift, when the shift got elevated, really killed his career.
Yeah.
But Jay Bruce, what a guy. I mean, he was, for those who don't remember, Jay Bruce was supposed to be what Joey Votto really became. He was supposed to be our big time player who would lead us, to the promised land. And he did. The walk-off home run he had in 2010 will forever be etched in my memory and will be used in Reds highlights forever. Would probably be a lot more if 2012 went better. But May 27, 2008, Jay Bruce's debut with the Reds. So fantastic player, and one day will be a Reds Hall of Famer.
Let's hope for some Jay Bruce out of Will Benson tonight.
Well, I've said that Will Benson is this team's Jay Bruce.
Yeah.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but if we can get some power out of Will Benson tonight, we'll be cooking.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But that's going to do it for tonight's show. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Make sure to like the stream. As always, tune in to all the pre-games and also the post games with Nick, Trace, Craig too, all those guys. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Let's hope for the series win tonight. And other than that, also the Indiana Pacers playing tonight in Game 4. I know a lot of you guys may be Cavs fans, so this might be tough, but Pacers playing the Knicks tonight, so I'm not sure how much of this game I'm going to catch. Going to flip between commercials and all that, but this is a Reds show, so going to end it with Go Reds.
Go Pacers. See you, Sam.